All right. It might help if the mic's unmuted there. What's going on, Not Move Podcast, Not Move Nation? Welcome to the Not Move Podcast. Um, we have 3 football games on today. I'd like to give a thank you to the supporters, subscribers, followers. We really appreciate you guys. Also, a special thank you to our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right, let's get into it. The first game that we have on today is the Green Bay Packers and Detroit Lions. First of all, I saw an interesting Thanksgiving statistic. Said that home teams are 122, 114, and 12 all time on Thanksgiving. All right, but that's just in the NFL total, not with the Packers and Lions. But the Packers do lead the all-time series, 107, 78, and 7 against Detroit. These teams have played on this exact date 4 times throughout history, and Detroit is up 3-1 in the all-time series on this exact date. Jared Goff, quarterback for the Detroit Lions, has a 7-4 career record, which includes the playoffs against the Packers. Jordan Love has a 3-4 career record against Detroit. The Lions are 38, 45, and 2 all time on Thanksgiving. Green Bay is 16, 20, and 2 all time on Thanksgiving. So both of these teams do have losing records on Thanksgiving Day. Jared Goff has a 1-3 career record on Thanksgiving Day, and Jordan Love has a 2-0 career record on Thanksgiving. Josh Jacobs also has a 2-0 record on Thanksgiving. Last that I checked, Detroit's favored by 2.5, and the over/under is 48.5. 6 out of the last 10 meetings between these teams have had a combined total of 49 plus points. And then the last 10 games that the Lions beat the Packers, they won those games by 3+ points. I mentioned that the spread's minus 2.5 in favor of Detroit. Yeah, Detroit has each time that they've won against the Packers in their last 10 victories against the Packers, they've won by 3+ points. Detroit is also better against the spread this season. They're 6-5 against the spread. Green Bay is 4-7. I don't think Green Bay has played as a road underdog this season, but Detroit's 3-2 against the spread as a home favorite. All in all, Detroit is 6-5 to the over. Green Bay's 5-6 to the over. So in that regard, it's pretty close. Green Bay carries a better record into this meeting. They are on a 2-game winning streak. They won their last game on this past Sunday against Minnesota, 23-6. And then they also beat the Detroit Lions in week 1, 27-13, which is who they play today. And then Detroit, they're 7-4. They're on a 1-game win streak, which they beat the Giants in overtime a few days ago. And let's get into the good stuff here. Overall, I would probably lean towards Detroit having a slight passing advantage in this game. Green Bay's got a pretty good pass defense in regards to yards allowed per game. They rank 5th. Detroit ranks 15th in that category. So Green Bay does limit passing yards better, but Detroit accumulates more passing yards per game than Green Bay does. Detroit ranks 8th. Green Bay ranks 14th. Rushing advantage, I'd give Detroit a slight rushing advantage as well in this game. Green Bay, a big 3rd down conversion advantage. Green Bay, slight red zone conversion advantage. Hey, how's it going? Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for stopping in. Green Bay's slight red zone attempts per game advantage. I don't really give I didn't really see a clear sacks on the quarterback advantage, but I would lean towards Detroit in that category. Hey, Ashley. And then I'd give Detroit a slight turnover differential advantage. All right, so let's get into some props here. Let me look for something that kind of stuck out to me in this game. David Montgomery, Green Bay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you? Oh, you're a Bears fan, Erica? Right on. Yeah, they've been playing great this season. So, Green Bay, they rank third in rushing yards allowed per game. Excuse me, they rank sixth in rushing yards allowed per game. Detroit ranks third in rushing yards per game. Also, Detroit ranks 19th in passing play percentage. So they call a higher percentage of rushing plays relative to the other teams in the league. Last that I checked, David Montgomery over under 36 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 5 out of 11 games this season. He's had 30 plus rushing yards in the same amount of games this season. 5 out of 11. He's had 25 plus rushing yards in 7 out of 11 games this season, and he's had 20 plus rushing yards in 9 out of 11 games this season. If you're looking for a 100% success rate with Montgomery, he's had 10 plus rushing yards in all 11 games this season. He has scored 1+ touchdown in 6 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. And he actually had a game where he had a 3-touchdown game against Green Bay. He's had a touchdown in 2 out of 4 all-time Thanksgiving Day games. And he even scored 1 against Green Bay. And he has gone over this rushing line in 10 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. He had 18 and 25 rushing yards in games that he didn't. So, although Green Bay is good against the run and they've limited running backs pretty well this season, they rank 12th best in limiting those rushing yards to running backs this season. I got to lean towards Montgomery going over these rushing yards and potentially scoring a touchdown in this game. We can go see where Green Bay is most vulnerable as a defense in allowing touchdowns. So they've limited the rushing touchdowns pretty good to running backs this season. So, in that regard, it's a little concerning there. Let me go check wide receiver statistics real quick. I'm looking at fantasy.nfl.com here. They've allowed 8. They've done pretty good at just limiting touchdowns all around to every position. But, I like the fact that David Montgomery has scored at least 1 touchdown in 6 out of 12 career games against Green Bay, and the fact that he has a touchdown in 2 out of 4 all-time Thanksgiving Day games. And I like the fact that he's gone over that rushing total, that 36 and a half rushing line in 10 out of 12 career games against the Packers. I'm sadly a Dallas Cowboy fan. Yeah, we play today, but I'll get into that game here pretty soon. Hey, happy Thanksgiving too, blessed up P. Hey, you as well. Thank you, man. Good luck today if you're making any plays. Ultimately, I want you guys to make your own decisions when it comes to the plays and everything. But I'll do the best I can to give you some quality information here. And if you have any questions, I just started the live. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. All right. But since we're talking about rushing props for Detroit, let's just touch on Jahmyr Gibbs real quick. Last that I checked, over under 71 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 5 out of 11 games this season. He's had 60 plus rushing yards in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 50 plus in 8 out of 11 games this season. But he's gone over the 71 and a half rushing line in 0 out of 5 career games against Green Bay. So that's a concern for me. 0 out of 5 career games, he's had 72 plus rushing yards against Green Bay, and he's coming off of that monstrous performance against the Giants just a few days ago. So it's hard to imagine that he'll replicate that. I mean, he is a very good player, but I don't like that history against Green Bay, although he has scored a touchdown in 2 out of 5 career games against Green Bay. If you're looking for something where he's had good success against Green Bay he's had 40 plus rushing yards in 4 out of 5 career games against them. Also, Jahmyr Gibbs has more rushing yards per carry in games that he wins or ties rather than loses in all 3 career seasons that he's played in. So if you like the Lions today to win this game, I think that there is a better chance for Gibbs to go over those 71.5 rushing yards if the Lions win. But yeah, Montgomery is going to be my favorite rushing prop for the Lions. I do want to talk about Jared Goff real quick. I mean, over under 0.5 rushing yards. So the question is, will Jared Goff get a rushing yard today? Now, Green Bay has limited rushing yards to quarterbacks better than any team in the league. And then Jared Goff has only had 1+ rushing yard in 4 out of 11 games this season. He's gone over this line in 7 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. He's actually had 5+ rushing yards in 7 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. He does not have a rushing touchdown in 11 career games against Green Bay. So if you were thinking about maybe Jared Goff getting into the end zone today, I mean, anything can happen, right? Any given Sunday, in this case, Thursday. But 0 out of 11 career games isn't something that I'm specifically looking to target. But he has more yards per carry in games that his team loses rather than wins or ties in every season except one. And this is his 10th season. So, excuse me, if you think Detroit is going to lose today, I would think Goff gets that 1 rushing yard based on that trend. I think, the fact that he's gone over that line in 7 out of 11 career games against Green Bay is solid. But that's just if you like the Lions to lose is when I would lean towards that. But let's talk about Josh Jacobs a little bit in this rushing attack for the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay really likes to run the ball. They call the 5th highest rushing play percentage out of any team in the league. So they're really focused on that run. But Detroit, they rank 15th in passing yards allowed per game, but the rushing yards allowed per game, they rank 11th. So just based on rushing versus passing yards allowed per game, their defense is better at preventing that rushing attack. And, that's where Green Bay really likes to zone in. I'm not saying they're a terrible passing team by any means, but, they're more run focused. And, Detroit's done a good job at limiting running back rushing yards this season as well. They rank 9th best. But I like Josh Jacobs today. Maybe not for the rushing yards. Let's talk about it. But I'm thinking about the anytime touchdown for Josh Jacobs. Looks pretty appetizing today. Looks like we're getting JB Sport Talk in here with us. Josh Jacobs has gone over the 58.5 rushing yard line in 6 out of 10 games this season. He's had 55+ rushing yards in 7 out of 10 games. He's had 40+ rushing yards in 8 out of 10 games this season. He's had 30+ rushing yards in all 10 games this season. But he's gone over that 58.5 rushing total in all 5 career games that he's played against Detroit. He has at least 61 rushing yards in each game against Detroit against Detroit in his 5-game history. He's also scored 1+ touchdown in 4 out of 5 career games against Detroit. He's had 2+ touchdowns in 2 out of 5 career games. He even had a 3-touchdown game against Detroit before. And also, Josh Jacobs has a touchdown in 2 out of 2 career Thanksgiving Day games. I think with the history here, this is the best history that I've saw out of any player today. The fact that he's gone over that 58.5 rushing total in 5 career games against Detroit, has had a touchdown in 4 out of 5 career games against Detroit, and has had a touchdown in both Thanksgiving Day games that he's played in. I think that's awesome. Let's see. Bettors, I've seen a few videos saying that favorites to cover or win been a trend since the early 2000s. Is this a good way to look at today's games? Favorites to cover or win been a trend. There's been, I'm not sure. When I'm looking at trends, I'm looking at big lopsided trends, maybe where a team has, lost 20 straight games on a specific date, or a player has gone under a certain prop 20 different times. The bigger the sample size and the bigger the gap, the more I like that trend, so that's what I really look for in trends. So it just depends on what those numbers are. Golf has been making you mad lately. Yeah, and we can talk about injury updates too. Overall, I didn't see too many big time injuries today or weather concerns. Now, Jacobs, he missed last game. So that's the thing is, making sure that Josh Jacobs isn't limited in any capacity. Right now, I don't see any injury designation for Josh Jacobs. He had a knee issue, so he sat out last week. And, he looks good to go here. And I'm seeing that he should get his usual workload in this game today. And I think, people may be a little skeptical about picking a player that is coming off of an injury. Personally, that's kind of when I like these players, especially the high profile names. So when it's their first game back from injury. But I think he looks pretty good today. JB, if you're with me, man, what are you thinking today, man? Who do you think has a better game? Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs? And if you're not there yet, that's okay too.
Well, to me, I think Jahmyr Gibbs probably has a better day.
Yeah.
I mean, they're in Detroit. It is Detroit's day. This is Detroit's Super Bowl. So I don't know. I think Josh Jacobs does have a good day. I'm not gonna. I think that I think he does have a good day. But I think this is Jahmyr Jacobs' day. I mean Jahmyr Gibbs' day.
Yeah. I really just don't like Gibbs's history against the Packers. I like Josh Jacobs' history a lot better. So out of all the running backs, man, Josh Jacobs has to be first on my list here, going over the rushing yards and an anytime touchdown. And then it's going to be David Montgomery. I do like Montgomery today, going over that 36.5 rushing line and an anytime touchdown as well. And then Jahmyr Gibbs would be my third option today, even though I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the best one out of those three. Just speaking about the entirety of the season, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is the most talented. Let's also talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery's pass catching abilities, because these guys, man, they've put up some pretty good numbers, especially Gibbs in that passing game. Now, Green Bay ranks ninth best in the NFL in receiving yards allowed to running backs, but they have allowed the eighth most receptions to running backs. So we'll look at both, but just based on that alone, maybe receptions is going to be the way to go with either of these running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs over under 35 and a half receiving yards. He's only gone over that line in 3 out of 11 games this season. He's had 30 plus receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 10 plus receiving yards in only 8 out of 11 games this season. Usually when we take a line from 35 and a half down to 10, sometimes we get a 100% success rate, but he's only gone over that 10. He's only had 10 plus receiving yards in 8 out of 11 games this season. And he has never gone over that receiving line in 5 career games against Green Bay. So I am concerned about not just his rushing history against Green Bay, but I'm worried about this receiving history too. Now, he's had 30 plus receiving yards in 2 out of 5 career games against Green Bay, 10 plus receiving yards in all 5 career games against Green Bay. And he's had more receiving yards in game, more receiving yards per catch in games that his team wins or ties rather than loses in all 3 career seasons. So if you like Green Bay today, or not Green Bay, if you like Detroit today, I would give Gibbs a better likelihood to go over those receiving yards. But even if they do win, man, it's hard for me to go with something that he hasn't accomplished in 5 career games against Green Bay. He does rank second on the Lions in target share, and he actually ranks second on Detroit in red zone target share. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later. The maybe anytime touchdowns and red zone conversion rates and stuff. But yeah, his over under. Well, let me back up real quick. He has also gone under those 35 and a half receiving yards, Jahmyr Gibbs. He's gone under that in 2 Thanksgiving Day games throughout his history. He's played in 2 Thanksgiving Day games, and he's never gone over those receiving yards in those Thanksgiving Day games. So I'm concerned about him going over that today, especially considering Green Bay ranks 9th best in receiving yards allowed to running backs. I'd have to lean towards the under on Jahmyr Gibbs, the 35 and a half receiving yards, which is pretty crazy because throughout the entirety of the season, I've really liked Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery when it comes to receiving yards and receptions. But let's talk about Gibbs's receptions. Last that I checked, over under 4.5. He's gone over that line in 4 out of 11 games this season. And if you're thinking about taking that hook off and getting it down to 4 plus receptions, he's gone over that the same amount of times. He's had 4 plus receptions in the same amount of games as he has 5 plus receptions this season. So I don't really see a lot of value taking it down to 4 plus. But if you get it at 3 plus, you're looking at 8 out of 11 games this season. Jahmyr Gibbs has had 3 plus receptions, 2 plus receptions in 10 out of 11 games. He's had 1 plus reception in all games. And then he's gone over the 4.5 reception line in 2 out of 5 career games against Green Bay. He's had 4 plus receptions in 4 out of 5 career games against Green Bay. And he's never gone over the reception line in 2 career Thanksgiving Day games. So I'm just a little skeptical about Jahmyr Gibbs in general today, accomplishing the receiving yards, the rushing yards, the receptions. And normally I really like Jahmyr Gibbs. Let's talk about Montgomery a little bit here. Montgomery over under 11 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 5 out of 11 games this season. He's had 10 plus receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season. And he's gone over this line in 9 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. So 75% of his games, and that's a good sample size, 75% of his games that he's played against Green Bay throughout history, he's had 12 plus receiving yards. He's had 10-plus receiving yards in 10 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. And Montgomery has had more yards per catch on the road than at home in 6 out of 7 career seasons, which is a bad trend since since Detroit's playing at home today. But I'm thinking maybe the receptions may be the way to go here with Montgomery. He's gone over the 1.5 reception line in 5 out of 11 games this season. And he's gone over that in 9 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. He's had at least 2 receptions in 3 out of 4 all-time Thanksgiving Day games. Out of receiving yards and receptions between Gibbs and Montgomery, I would have to lean the one that I like the most is going to be the Montgomery over 1.5 receptions. And if you can get it at 1+ reception, he's gone over that in 10 out of 11 games this season and 11 out of 12 career games against Green Bay. Let's see here. I love Monty for 9.5 receiving yards, Bettors, and 2 receptions. Yep, I'm thinking so too, man. I'm liking it too. Blessed up P. The reception's been plus money at 2. Not sure if it still is, says Blessed Up P. Yeah, I mean, that sounds good to me. Once again, I think another big factor in this is that the Packers have limited receiving yards to running backs very well this season. They rank 9th best, whereas they rank 8th worst in receptions allowed to running backs. So I think, Montgomery over the 1.5 receptions is the way I'd like to go there. Now, okay, let's see what Blessed Up He says. I think wide receivers for Green Bay feast today versus Lions. I'm just torn on which one. Watson or Dubs. JB, which way are you leaning towards this question? I'll get into some statistics here in just a second, but who would you say has the better chance to eat today against the Detroit Lions pass defense? They do rank 12th worst in receiving yards allowed to wide receivers. Do you think it's going to be Watson or Dobbs?
Oh man, if Watson can stay healthy through the game, if he didn't have a concussion, I'd go Watson. I'm go Watson.
You'd lean towards Watson. So let's
Yeah,
talk
I
about
like Watson.
Let's talk about it here. Watson, over under 56.5 receiving yards. He's gone over this line in 2 out of 5 games this season. Also, let me check one other thing real quick. So I want to talk about big plays, right? Explosive plays. I think explosive plays, the correct terminology for that is 25+ rushing or rushing gains allowed or passing gains allowed. But I'm going to stick with the 20+ and or 40+. Okay. Detroit has allowed the 5th most 20+ yard receptions this season. Christian Watson has had 5 20+ yard receptions in 5 games this season. So he's averaging 1 per game. Whereas Dobbs has had 8 20+ yard receptions in 11 games this season. And let's not forget about Matthew Golden. Last I checked, Matthew Golden is questionable with a wrist issue. So that would be an injury update that I'd be looking up near game as we get closer to game time. Still don't have any clarity on that. But just based on these big plays, Christian Watson, he's doing good this season. Okay, so Watson, over under 56.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that line in 2 out of 5 games this season. He's had 50+ receiving yards in 2 out of 5 games this season as well. But he's had 45+ receiving yards in all 5 games this season. He's gone over this line, the 56.5, in 3 out of 6 career games against Detroit. He's had 35+ receiving yards in 4 out of 6 career games against Detroit. He's had 25+ in 5 out of 6 career games against Detroit. He's had a touchdown in 2 out of 6 career games against the Lions. And he has more yards per catch on the road than at home in 3 out of 4 career seasons, which is a good trend. and he has more yards per catch when his team loses rather than wins or ties in 3 out of 4 career seasons. So if you like the Lions to win this game, I would have to give Christian Watson a bigger likelihood of going over these receiving yards today. But even if the Packers win, I still am thinking he gets there. He's played in 2 career Thanksgiving Day games, and he had 67 receiving yards in 94, which both of those games he went over that 56 and a half receiving yard line. And I wish he had a little bit better history against Detroit, but it's not terrible. He's gone over that line in half of his career games against them. And with his big play catching ability, I'm thinking that this is probably the way to go, Watson. But let me look at Dobbs real quick. Over under 44 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that line in a higher percentage of games this season than Watson has gone over his line. Dobbs has gone over his line in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's had 40-plus receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 35-plus in 7 out of 11 games. He's had 30-plus in 7 out of 11. So, if you're thinking about taking it from 44 and a half down to 30-plus, I mean, you're getting the same success rate as that 40-plus. And then he's had 25-plus receiving yards in 9 out of 11 games this season. But he's gone over the 44 and a half receiving total in 2 out of 6 career games against Detroit, which isn't as good as Watson's history against Detroit. Also, he has never scored a touchdown against the Lions in 6 career games. However, he does lead the Green Bay Packers in red zone targets this season since Tucker Kraft is out. So, I like Josh Jacobs more for a touchdown than Dobbs. And, I'm thinking even Watson, even though Dobbs has a better, gets more red zone targets. I like Watson's history against Detroit better than Dobbs. And then also, to elaborate with Dobbs, man, he has played in 1 career game on Thanksgiving Day and went under his receiving line, whereas Christian Watson has gone over his receiving line in 2 career Thanksgiving Day games. So I like Watson more than Dobbs here today. Receptions. Let me just browse through my notes real quick to see, if we have anything with these receptions here. Watson's gone over the 3.5 receptions in 3 out of 5 games this season. He's had 2+ receptions in all 5 games this season. He's gone over the 3.5 reception line in half of his career games against Detroit. He's had 3+ receptions in 4 out of 6 career games against Detroit and 2+ receptions in all career games against Detroit. So I think the safest play, if you're thinking about Watson receptions, is going to be the 2+ receptions. He's gone over that in all games this season, and he's gone over that in all career games against Detroit. So if you're looking for an alternate line, like a safer play, Watson 2+ receptions. He's had 100% success rate this season and career games against Detroit. Dobbs over under 3.5 receptions. He's gone over that line in 5 out of 11 games this season. Let me just browse the notes real quick to see if there's anything that really sticks out here. Not really. So, I'd be leaning more towards Watson's, just Watson in general instead of Dobbs. Now, let's see. Bettors, I'm on outlier. I think I found a sleeper. Wicks, 27.5 receiving yards. He has hit this twice versus Green Bay and twice this month. So some of these props were unavailable. I tried to get to as many as I could. There's not many props that I didn't look at. But, I don't see Wicks even on the book that I'm at for any props, which is probably why I didn't look into it. 27.5 receiving yards. He's hit twice this month, twice versus Green Bay. Yeah, that sounds sounds pretty solid there. Um, let's see. He's gone over that line in 4 out of 9 games this season. And then he's gone over that line in his last career game against Detroit. Not necessarily, something that I looked at a whole lot. I would look at his splits to see if he, is better on the road versus at home in yards per catch, or better on turf than grass. This game is being played on turf. Yeah, Watson's going to be the guy that I'm looking for here. Wicks line on FD and MGM. No DK lines. Yeah, I was looking at the DK lines. But, let's talk about the receiving corp here for the Detroit Lions. JB, who do you see being the impact player here in this one? Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jameson Williams? I mean, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, his receiving line is higher. He's projected to have more receiving yards. But, which one would you pick out of those two, man?
Oh man. Obviously, I'm on Brown. I'm on St. Brown. Seems like the no-brainer pick. Um, Something's telling me Jameson Williams though. I think I'm gonna go Jameson for the holiday.
Yeah, I'm naturally feeling that too, man. Jameson Williams, but
Mm,
let me look into the stats real quick. Green Bay has done a great job at limiting yards to wide receivers this season. They rank 5th best in the NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown has gone over the 75.5 receiving line in 6 out of 11 games this season, so more than half of his games. He's had 70-plus receiving yards. I know some people like to toggle that from 75.5 down to 70-plus receiving yards. He's gone over that in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 60-plus in the same amount, 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 50-plus in 11 out of 8 out of 11 games this season. Let's see here. If you're looking for a 100% success rate with 100% success rate for Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's had 40-plus receiving yards in all 11 games this season. He's had a touchdown in 3 out of 9 career games against Detroit. Against Green Bay. He's gone over the 75.5 receiving line in only 2 out of 9 career games against Green Bay. In both games that he did go over that were in Detroit, though, and they're in Detroit today. And then he's had 40-plus receiving yards in 8 out of 9 career games against Green Bay. So he's had 40-plus receiving yards in all 11 games this season. He's had 40-plus receiving yards in 8 out of 9 career games against Green Bay. I think that would be, a safer play, if you will. St. Brown, 40-plus receiving yards. And then he has more receiving yards per catch at home than on the road in 4 out of 5 seasons, which is a good trend. That is a good trend since they're playing at home. And then he has more receiving yards per receptions in games that his team wins or ties rather than loses in 4 out of 5 career seasons. So if you're liking Detroit to win today, I'd give Amon-Ra St. Brown a bigger likelihood of going over those receiving yards. And then he has more receiving yards per catch on turf than grass in 5 out of 5 career seasons. So this game's on turf. And all 5 seasons, he has more yards per catch on turf than grass. He ranks first on the Lions in target share and in red zone target share. He actually ranks 3rd best in the NFL in red zone targets. But let's talk about Jameson Williams a little bit here. He has more yards per reception when his team wins or ties rather than loses in 3 out of 4 career seasons. He's only gone over the 51.5 receiving line in 1 out of 4 career games against Green Bay. And he's never scored a touchdown in 4 career games against Green Bay. So these statistics are leading me to believe that St. Brown has the better game than Jameson Williams. Also, Jamison Williams has not had 52 plus receiving yards in his 2 career games that he's played on Thanksgiving Day. Amon-Ra St. Brown has at least gone over the 75.5 receiving line in 2 out of 4 career games that he's played on Thanksgiving Day. So I got to lean more towards St. Brown going over those receiving yards than Jamison Williams. Um, Let me just look at the receptions real quick to see if anything sticks out to me. I'd have to lean more towards St. Brown going over his receptions as well. Um, Now he's only had 7+ receptions. That's his line's at 6.5. He's only had 7+ receptions in 3 out of 9 career games against Green Bay. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with 5+ receptions for St. Brown. He's hit that in 6 out of 9 career games against Green Bay, in 9 out of 11 games this season. Let's see here. Give me Jordan Love under 232.5 passing yards, but I'll take his 2 passing touchdowns, says Blessed Up P. What are you thinking about the quarterback matchup here today, JB? Goff versus Love.
I think Goff needs to make some type of rebound, right? Love, man, Goff, Love. I'm just not. I'm not. I don't see the consistency with Love. Never really have. You know, he's hot one day, he's cold another. Man, it's Thanksgiving. You better have your jacket on. Give me Goff being home. I just. I mean, the hard part is dealing with their defense and Michael Parsons, right? That's my only worrisome is how are they going to do that? Because Michael looks like he's healthy finally for the first time in a long time. So I'm gonna go with Jordan Love because I don't know if Detroit can get back there quick enough or get to him good enough. Give me Jordan Love.
Detroit's done a pretty great job at defending, protecting Jared Goff this season. They rank 11th in sacks allowed per game to their quarterback. Green Bay ranks 10th in team sacks per game. So I think that's a pretty fair matchup there. And with Parsons, yeah, I mean, I could see them getting after Goff a little bit here today. But, in Green Bay, on the flip side, they've done a great job at protecting Jordan Love. But I do think Goff is more talented. But let's talk about this prop that Ivan was talking about here. Jordan Love over under 232.5 passing yards. He said he likes this under. When I was looking at it, it was 230.5. Jordan Love has gone over that line in 5 out of 11 games this season. And let's say you're thinking about taking Jordan Love for 200+ passing yards. Well, he's only gone over that in 5 out of 11 games this season as well. So I don't see any value of taking Jordan Love from 230.5 down to 200+ because he's gone over that in the same amount of games this season. If I were to take Jordan Love passing yards, I would go 175+ since he's gone over that in 10 out of 11 games this season. He has had 231+ passing yards in 3 out of 7 career games against Detroit. He didn't have a pass attempt in one of those games, so it's more like 3 out of 6. And then he's had 200+ passing yards in 4 out of 6 career games against Detroit. So, yeah, I would have to take that line down to like 175+, but I'm with you, Ivan. And considering Green Bay is a run, they call a high percentage of rushing plays relative to the other teams in the league, I'd have to lean towards Jordan Love going that under that as well. But let's talk about his passing touchdowns. He's had 2+ passing touchdowns in 5 out of 11 games this season. He's had 1+ in 8 out of 11. He's only gone over the 1.5 passing touchdown line in 2 out of 7 career games against Detroit, but it's more like 2 out of 6 since he didn't have a pass attempt in one of those games. So I really don't even like his. I really don't like his passing touchdowns going over either, man. I would have to, if I were to take his passing touchdowns, I'd have to go to 1+. I think 1+ is manageable. He's gone over that in 8 out of 11 games this season, 5 out of 7 career games against Detroit, but more like 5 out of 6. So give me if I don't like Jordan Love passing props today, but if I had to go with them, give me 175 plus passing yards for Love and 1 touchdown pass. Let's talk about Goff a little bit. We have a comment here from Don that says Goff 3+ passing touchdowns. Yeah, let's talk about it. So Jared Goff has had 2+ passing touchdowns in 7 out of 11 games this season. So more times than not, he's got the 2+. He's had 3+ passing touchdowns in 3 out of 11 games this season, which isn't great. But if you're getting good odds for that, then that's decent. And then he's had 3+ passing touchdowns in 2 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. So he is capable of getting the 3+ passing touchdowns. But, I like him for 2+ passing touchdowns today. He's had 2+ passing touchdowns in 6 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. So more times than not this season and against his career history against Green Bay, 2+ passing touchdowns for Goff. He's gone over that more times than he hasn't. Now his passing yards, right? 242.5 last I checked. He's gone over that line in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's had 200+ passing yards in 10 out of 11 games this season. If you're looking for a higher success rate, and he's had 200+ passing yards in 8 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. But over that true line, he's only gone over that 242.5 in 4 out of 11 career games against Green Bay. But Goff has more yards, more passing yards per attempt in games that his team wins or ties rather than loses in every season that he's played in except one. And this is his 10th season. So this goes back to, if you think Detroit's going to win today, I think Goff has a bigger likelihood of going over those 242.5 passing yards. If I were to have to pick between one or the other, I'd pick Goff, the 2+ passing touchdowns first. And then, I do like, I think Goff has a better chance of going over those passing yards today than Jordan Love has going over his passing yards based on these statistics that I'm looking at here. And then let me see if there's anything else that we haven't really touched up on. If you're thinking about Detroit Lion, I didn't look into their tight end prop. They don't have Laporta in. But if you do like Dwelly or another tight end for Detroit, Green Bay has allowed the 8th most receptions to tight ends this season. But, other than that, I think that about wraps this game up. Don says they'll go with 2+ passing touchdowns. Yeah, I think that's safer than the 3. I don't necessarily like that 3+. I mean, can he do it? Absolutely, but I'd rather be in a position. I think 2+ is. It seems like much more doable according to this season's data and his career history against Green Bay. With all that being said, JB, who do you like in this game? Detroit's favored by 2.5, and the over/under is 48.5. You there, JB?
Yeah. I got Detroit just for them being home.
Yeah, I got to lean towards Detroit in this one too. Get that win back that they lost in week 1 against Green Bay. And I do think Detroit covers that -2.5. Once again, the last 10 games that Detroit has beat Green Bay, Detroit has won by 3+ points. So I think that's pretty solid. Detroit is also better against the spread this season. Let's go Lions. Let's go Lions. But I think the key to this game for Detroit is limiting Josh Jacobs as much as you can. I do have to say Josh Jacobs is my favorite touchdown scorer for the Packers. And then my favorite touchdown scorer for the Lions is going to be David Montgomery. If you had to pick a touchdown score, one touchdown scorer on each team, JB, who would you go with?
That's tough. One touchdown score on each side. Give me Jameer Gibbs for Detroit Lions, the touchdown score, and give me. Let me get a man. I'm gonna go with give me Josh Jacobs.
Jacobs.
Yeah, give me Jacobs.
You know what? The other day, JB, we were talking about the McCaffrey and McMillan, McDouble type thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
ended up hitting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I was thinking about today for Thanksgiving? Just a random thought that I had this morning was any player that has like a food in their name, so like rice, right? Rice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to see some other ones that have a food in their name here. Lamb, rice, and we'll get to that game here in just a second. And there was one other one. Who was it? Oh man, I'll think about it if I come across it again. But there was one other one that had like a food related name. Anyways, um, and what's your final score prediction in this Green Bay and Detroit game? The over under is 48.5.
48.5. Man.
I think it's
Give
going to be a
me.
I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
Yeah, I got the over.
I'm thinking it goes over this too. Um, give me 30 30 to 34 to 34 to 34 to 20. Detroit.
For 20 Detroit. I. It, hmm.
And I was looking to see where these teams were vulnerable at allowing touchdowns this season. Green Bay and Detroit. If I can remember correctly, and I'm looking at it right now, they just really they're both just good at limiting touchdowns. Oh, Detroit has allowed the second most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers, guys. So Ivan, I think Watson, and we talked about him. I think that's a really good look there. But Dobbs, let's not forget Dobbs. He doesn't have good history against Detroit. He hasn't scored a touchdown in 6 career games against Detroit, but he is the main red zone target for Green Bay. So if there was ever a time for him to get one, I think this would be a good spot. But yeah, I have to lean towards Watson as my second favorite player to get a touchdown on Green Bay. First being Jacobs. JB, did you get a final score prediction to this game?
Yeah. I got. Oh, give me. Give me 20. Give me 27-34. Detroit.
You know, um, to answer Ivan's question about Brock Wright, I don't really know much about him, man. But that could be a sneaky play here. Green Bay has allowed 5 receiving touchdowns to tight ends this season, which ranks about middle of the pack. So I mean, I just didn't really look into the tight ends for this game. That's a flaw that I've had on this breakdown, and really, it's because their 2 main tight ends are out now. We see we see tight ends get overlooked a lot, especially when the main ones are out, like this situation. I truly wouldn't be surprised to see some tight ends get touchdowns in this game, but just not somewhere I'm looking to target, man. We have Tucker Kraft that's out for. Oh, Brock Wright is also out in this game too. Ivan, Brock Wright out, just so you know. But Tucker Kraft is out, and then Laporta is out. Brock Wright out. So it looks like, Musgrave and Fitzpatrick are going to be the guys for Green Bay. And then Ross Dwelly, the tight end for Detroit today. And I think he used to run with San Francisco.
Literally run for San Francisco.
All right. So that breaks that game down. I just want to see if I have any more. Okay. Cool. All right, here we go. Next game. The Kansas City Chiefs at Dallas Cowboys. Let's go, Cowboys. I'm a Cowboys fan. JB is a Chiefs fan. So here we are. Today's the day.
What it is.
Dallas leads the all-time series 7-5 against Kansas City Chiefs. Dallas is 5-1 against Kansas City when Dallas is the home team. Mahomes does have a 1-0 career record against Dallas. I was actually at that game, unfortunately.
That's right.
And then Dak Prescott has a 1-1 career record against Kansas City.
I remember a Thanksgiving game a few years ago.
Dallas is 34-22-1 on Thanksgiving. They have a 3-game Thanksgiving win streak. Kansas City has a 5-5 record on Thanksgiving. Mahomes has never played on Thanksgiving. Dak Prescott, quarterback for the Cowboys, is 5-2 on Thanksgiving. Travis Kelce needs 5 receptions to move into 11th place on the all-time receptions leaders list. He would pass Andre Johnson. What better spot to do it than on Thanksgiving Day? And Andre Johnson used to play for the Houston Texans. This game is in Texas. And let me just go browse what Kelce's over-under on receptions is, 5.5. So if we took that down to 5, he's had 5+ receptions in 5 out of 11 games this season. But he's also had at least 5 receptions in 2 career games against the Cowboys. He's played technically 3 career games against them, but he didn't have a target in one of those games. So it's really more like 1 out of 2. But he had 5 and 7 total receptions. So I think Kelce's got a good chance of going over this line today against the Cowboys, who allow the 8th most receptions to tight ends this season. And here's another long shot, right? I mean, but I had to put it down in my notes. Kelce needs 222 receiving yards to move into 21st place on the all-time receiving yards leaders list. He would pass Jason Witten. Jason Witten used to be a Cowboy, right? What better day to do that than today on Thanksgiving to pass Jason Witten? But, Kelce would need a monster game, right? 222 plus passing or receiving yards. I wonder what Kelce's record is. Kelce record for receiving yards in a game. His record is 191. It's his single game record. So he would need to set his single game record in order to do that. But I think that would be really cool, to do that in this spot today. What do you think about Travis Kelce today, JB? This Cowboys pass defense that has allowed the third most receiving yards per game this season.
Oh yeah, I love it. I love today for a kind of like a get right game for the Chiefs. Something good for Kelsey. Um, I like him. I like him a lot in this game. Um, obviously the year hasn't gone the way that they would like it to go necessarily, but Kelsey has had a better year. Um, I like Kelsey, man. I like Kelsey to go off today. Yeah, today. My days are so messed up right now. Let's
You
go
know,
Chiefs.
both of these teams ranked first and second in passing yards per game, and they both call a higher percentage of passing plays relative to the other teams in the league. I think I was listening to something about Romo, right? Talking about how, excuse me, how both of these teams are going to run the ball today. I don't know if I really see that happening, man. I mean, both of these teams are their bread and butters um, that passing attack,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for Kansas City. I mean, Kansas City is in a dream spot here. The second most passing yards per game going up against a team that allows the third most passing yards per game. And I've heard the Cowboys' rush defense has just absolutely turned things around since acquiring
Mm-hmm.
one of these defensive players. So, the Chiefs just don't accumulate as many rushing yards per game relative to the other teams in the league as passing yards per game. So, and Dallas is just better against limiting the rushing yards per game relative to the other teams in the league than the passing. So, I think that's the Chiefs, go to thing, and really, I think, and that's what Dallas does best too. I think um, that's the way to go for these teams today. Both of them to put the ball through the air. But let's
Dallas
look.
got way. I mean, I think you're gonna see just like you did last week a little bit difference in Kansas City, right? Kansas City and the Chiefs ran the ball last week quite a bit. I think Kareem Hunt had like 29 carries, something like that. So when it's not necessarily our bread and butter, it is also Thanksgiving, so we have to got other sides. You know what I'm saying? We got other dishes. We don't need to just be stuck in the same. You know what I'm saying? Mashed potatoes. You know what I mean? Um, yeah, man. Look for Kareem Hunt to have a good day. I mean, I know it's been a short week, so that is also actually, I take that back. I take that back. I take that back. Kareem Hunt, do not look for Kareem Hunt to have a good day. Kareem Hunt just got the brakes beat off last week, just 3 days ago. 29 carries. He's probably gonna be tired, beat up. Um, Pacheco is coming back today. Pacheco will be back. Look for Pacheco to be the main guy. He hasn't played the last couple of weeks. Um, yeah, I do like the Chiefs running game over Dallas's running game this today, tonight, this evening.
Blessed up P's asking CD Lamb for longest reception, 25 and a half.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't get time to thoroughly look into a prop like that, but I'm just browsing it real quick, Ivan. And I've seen CD Lamb has had 26 or more receiving. His longest reception has been 26 or more yards, and 6 out of 8 games this season. So I think that's pretty good there. Now, the Chiefs are not extremely vulnerable to allowing big, explosive passing plays when I was looking at my research. I know the Cowboys are. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But I'm just trying to see CD Lamb against the Chiefs. His longest reception in his one career game against Kansas City was 8. So that's a bad history there. But let's talk about some other stuff here. So let's stay with this Chiefs passing attack. I didn't thoroughly cover the Kelsey receiving yards over under 57 and a half. He's gone over that line in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's had 50 plus receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season, 45 plus in 9 out of 11, and he's had 40 plus receiving yards in 10 out of 11 games this season. He's gone over the 57 and a half receiving yard line in 2 out of 3 career games against the Cowboys, but he didn't have a target in one of those games. So it's really like he's gone over that line in both career games that he's played against the Cowboys. He's also had a touchdown in both career games that he was targeted, both career games against the Cowboys. One of the touchdowns he scored was a rushing touchdown. He's never played on Thanksgiving Day. He ranked second on the Chiefs in red zone target share. The Cowboys have done okay at preventing touchdowns to tight ends this season. They've allowed 3, which is right up there with the Chiefs. Like both of these teams are good at preventing tight end touchdowns this season. But I think Kelsey's in a good spot. I like his history. I like the numbers that I see here with Kelsey. JB says that he likes him. So, yeah, 5 plus receptions for Kelsey. I would say, 40 plus receiving yards is probably the safer way to go. But I'd still have to lean towards him going over those receiving yards. And I think anytime touchdown, I don't necessarily love it, but, I think it's very, very doable considering he has scored at least 1 touchdown in both career games against Dallas. JB, who do you think out of this Chiefs receiving corps do you see having the best day? I mean, they have a ton of weapons here. Rashee Rice, Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. Also, do you think Thornton is going to get any run in this game? The Cowboys have allowed the 6th most receiving yards to wide receivers this season and the 11th most receptions to wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. Rice, baby.
Rice, baby.
Oh yeah, we're going Rice. I think between Rice and Xavier Worthy, I think they go off today. I also wouldn't be surprised to see Tyquan Thornton. The Chiefs tried getting him involved last week and it didn't really pan out, I don't know why they didn't go back to him. I would be looking for him to be kind of doing something out there in Dallas tonight. Houston, you might have a problem.
I was specifically asking about Tyquan Thornton because I saw he had that big play capability, and the Cowboys have allowed the most 40-plus yard receptions this season. They've allowed a total of 10. So I was real interested in Tyquan Thornton a little bit, but I'd say Rashee Rice is the guy who has the most 40 plus yard receptions relative to the games that he's played. He has 2 40-plus yard receptions in 5 games this season. So let me break down these wide receivers a little bit here. Ivan says Hollywood Brown he likes. Let's talk about it. Hollywood Brown, over under 17 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over this line in 8 out of 11 games this season. He's had 10-plus receiving yards in 10 out of 11 games this season. Here's the thing about Hollywood Brown is his line's at 17 and a half, which I mentioned he's gone over in 8 out of 11 games this season. He's had 30-plus receiving yards in 8 out of 11 games this season. So I know there's people that like to do the reverse lines, and I think this would be a pretty decent spot to look at that. He's even had 40-plus receiving yards in 6 out of 11 games this season. I think this line may be so low though because Rashee Rice missed some time, which is taking away some work from Hollywood Brown. But Hollywood Brown's gone over the 17 and a half receiving line in both career games against the Cowboys. He had 39 and 61 receiving yards. He's had a touchdown in both career games against the Cowboys that he's played in. He ranks third on the Chiefs in red zone targets. He also has more yards per catch when his team wins or ties rather than loses in 6 out of 7 career seasons. He also has more yards per catch on the road than he does at home in 6 out of 7 career seasons, which is a good trend. I like that play too, Ivan. What do you think, JB? You think Hollywood Brown has those 18-plus receiving yards?
I like it. I always forget about Hollywood Brown, but he's up there in yardage and receiving for the Chiefs. Yeah, I like it. I really do.
And then let's talk about your man here, Rashee Rice. He's gone over the
Nice
75 and a
race.
half receiving line in 3 out of 5 games this season. If you're thinking about taking his Rice's line down to 50-plus receiving yards,
Mm-mm.
he's gone over that the same amount of times that he's gone over the 75 and a half this season. So I don't see any value in that. But he has, I would at least, if I were to take Rashee Rice down on receiving yards, I would take him at 40 plus. He's gone over that in 4 out of 5 games this season. He's had 35 plus in all 5 games. He's actually, let's see here. He's never played against the Cowboys. He leads this Chiefs team in red zone targets, and he's only played 5 games this season. That's crazy. He ranks 9th in the NFL in red zone targets, and he's only played 5 games. So, Mahomes is really feeding him the rock, man. And, yeah, I think Rashee Rice is definitely somebody to look out for today for the Cowboys, man. But yeah, I'm worried about Rashee Rice going off. And then Worthy, he's gone over the 38 and a half receiving yards in 4 out of 9 games this season. Worthy he's only had 30 plus receiving yards in 5 out of 9 games this season, 25 in 6 out of 9. I would have to take Worthy probably down to 20 plus. He's gone over that in 8 out of 9 games this season. And he's never played against the Cowboys. Juju Smith-Schuster, over under 10 and a half receiving yards. He's gone over that in 70% of his games this season. He's had 5 plus receptions. 5 plus receiving yards in 9 out of 10 games this season. He's actually had 30 plus receiving yards in 5 out of 10 games this season. He's gone over the 10 and a half receiving line in 2 out of 2 career games against the Cowboys. He has a touchdown against the Cowboys throughout 2 games in his history. Do you think anything special today from Juju Smith-Schuster, JB, or maybe just somebody, if you had to not pick a player, maybe not go with him?
Juju. I mean, you seen it last week when Rashee Rice went down. Who stepped up? Juju. That is the other thing to think about, guys. I didn't even think about this until just now. Rashee Rice, remember at the end of the game last week, was hobbling around and barely able to keep going because of his hamstring injury. I'd be looking for more of a limited role from Rashee Rice. Now that I think about that, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. So it sucks.
Here's another
let's go Juju.
aspect, JB. Noah Gray is out today, going under, he had a concussion or is going under concussion protocols. He's out today. So that could open more things up for Travis Kelce. Give him a bigger workload, I should say.
Yep.
I didn't really cover injuries in this game. There really wasn't any notable injuries that I saw except for that one offensively for either of these teams. It looks like everybody's healthy for the most part. But, yeah, you're right. Rashee Rice did have a little hamstring thing going on. So,
Look for that to be Because hamstrings don't just go.
I think people looking for a sleeper to go off in this game. I mean, Tyquan Thornton, man. The fact that the Cowboys have allowed the most 40-plus yard receptions this season. I mean, Tyquan Thornton has two of those, Uh, just his
Mm-hmm.
workload just isn't there, His targets, he's just not seeing it. But if for some reason the Chiefs unleash him today, I mean, I think he's a sleeper for an anytime touchdown.
I like it.
Um, And then since we're just talking about the Chiefs right now, let's talk about their rushing ability too. You know, the Cowboys. Really, where the Cowboys are most vulnerable is in the rushing game with their defense is rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes over under 22 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 10 plus rushing yards in 7 out of 11 as well. So if you're thinking about taking Mahomes from 22 and a half to over 10 or to 10 plus rushing yards, he's gone over that in the same amount of games. So I don't really see value right there with that. If I were to take Mahomes to an alternate line, I would take him for 5+ rushing yards, which he's gone over 9 out of 11 games this season. But I think just if I were to go with a Mahomes rushing prop, I would leave it where it was at and go over that. Um, he's actually had, 30+ rushing yards in 6 out of 11 games this season. 50+ in 3 out of 11 games. He did rush for 11 yards in his only career game against the Cowboys. I think this is a good spot for Mahomes to go over the rushing yards, but I'm a little unsure about it. JB, what do you think about Mahomes going over those rushing yards today? I think it's a good look.
Well, I do too. I think it's a good look. He's been really kind of staying in the pocket a little bit more so recent weeks. But with this being a playoff game or implications, and from here on out, look for Mahomes to be running a lot more. I like it. I like him from going over the Russian total this week.
You know, Tony Romo was saying that running the ball. I mean, Kareem Hunt had 30 rushing attempts last game, and he was talking about how that's the safe play, right? And I just, I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I don't think either team should focus on running today. Although Romo's not wrong, it is the safer play. You don't have to put the ball through the air. And yeah, Mahomes, if he, gets things working through that pass game, man. I mean, that'll just next thing you know, he's taken off down the field for
30
X amount of
yards.
yards.
Yeah.
Now I will say that the Cowboys have allowed the seventh most 20+ yard rushing plays this season, and Mahomes has had a 20+ yard rushing game this season, so he's capable of getting there. Um, you know, and then excuse me. So Pacheco's back. Who do you see having the better day, JB, Hunt or Pacheco?
Man, if Kareem Hunt was any younger, I'd say him, but I have to go with Pacheco. It sucks saying that because he's coming off of injury, hasn't played very well, but give me Pacheco.
Let's go over the statistics here a little bit here. Kareem Hunt over 32 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 30+ in 8 out of 11 games this season, 20+ in 9 out of 11 games, 15+ every game this season. Hunt's had at least 15+ rushing yards. He's gone over the 32 and a half rushing line in 2 career games that he's played against the Cowboys. He had 37 and 71 rushing yards. He's had a touchdown in 1 out of 2 career games against the Cowboys. He actually had exactly 2 touchdowns in 1 out of 2 career games against the Cowboys. He has more yards per rush attempt on the road than at home in 7 out of 9 career seasons. I think that is a good trend here for Kareem Hunt. And then he's had more rushing yards per attempt on turf than grass in 7 out of 9 career seasons, which is a good trend for Kareem Hunt. So I'm liking what I see here for Kareem Hunt. Let's look at Pacheco. Pacheco has gone over the 27 and a half rushing line in 6 out of 8 games this season. So 75% of the time, Pacheco's gone over that line, and he's gone over those rushing yards in 6 straight games. He's had 20-plus rushing yards in all 8 games this season. So, taking Pacheco from 27.5 down to 20, you're getting 100% success rate this season. He's had more yards per carry on the road than at home in 3 out of 4 career seasons, which is a good trend. He has more yards per carry when his team wins or ties rather than loses in all career seasons that he's played in. So if you like the Chiefs today, I think, Pacheco has a bigger likelihood of going over those rushing yards. Also, he has more rushing yards per carry on turf than grass in 3 out of 4 career seasons that he's played, which is a good trend. So to be honest with you, man, I think both of these guys are in good shape here today to go over their rushing lines. Can they coexist, though? That would be before I would make any plays on that. I would see if there have been any games throughout history this season, maybe in a different season, where Kareem Hunt and Pacheco have both had solid games. Typically, if I'm going with one player to go over rushing yards, though, I know that's going to eat into the other player's workload a little bit. So coexisting, I think, is a little bit more difficult. Man, if I had to go with one, I would probably roll with you because you are a Chiefs fan and you seem to know what's kind of going on there. So I guess I'd lean more towards Pacheco, but man, I think they're both in solid spots to go over their rushing totals today, even Mahomes. But the
Like I
Cowboys
said,
have
I'm
been
not saying
better
that he
against the run.
I'm not saying that he won't. I'm just saying you're looking at a 30-year-old running back in Kareem Hunt who's already shown that he's not the same just from last year to this year. And he had 29 carries last week, and that was Sunday, and today
Just
is
a few days
Thursday.
ago. Yep.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. I don't see him now. If he was any younger, give him 3 years ago, yeah, I
Right.
could see that. I could see
Yeah.
that. But
Great point, man.
just the way that he was used last week, the way that I don't see it, man. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good look, JB. Great take, man. It's good information. Definitely something worth considering there. Prescott, Ivan, or Blessed Up Pete asked Prescott 250 plus passing yards. Let's talk about it. The Chiefs, their pass defense is good. Really, their run defense is good too. But they are more vulnerable relative to other teams in the league in that passing yards allowed per game rather than rushing yards allowed per game. And that's where Dallas's bread and butter is. So we're talking about Dak Prescott, 250 plus. Last that I checked, Ivan, I have 250. He's gone over the 250. He's had 250 plus in 8 out of 11 games this season. But, Prescott has gone over the 256 and a half passing yards in 6 out of 11 games this season. Take it down to 250 plus. You're looking at 8 out of 11. 200 plus, we're looking at 9 out of 11. But here's the problem with Prescott is he has never gone over this line in his 2 career game history against the Chiefs. He had 249 passing yards in the 2017 game against Kansas City, and then 216 passing yards against Kansas City in 2021. He's averaged more yards per pass attempt or tied in every season he's played in when he's at home rather than the road, except one season. This is his 10th season. So I think that's a good trend for Dak going over those passing yards today. I think that's a good trend for Dak going over those passing yards today. Also, Dak has averaged more yards per pass attempt when his team wins or ties rather than loses in every season he's played in, and this is his 10th season. Okay, you're good, JB. Yeah, so that's, if you like the Cowboys to win today, I think there's an even bigger likelihood that Dak Prescott goes over those 256 and a half passing yards. He's also averaged more passing yards per attempt on turf than grass in every season that he's played in, except his first 2 seasons and then in the NFL. So I like it, man. I think Dak goes over these passing yards today. Not only is that where the Chiefs are more vulnerable relative to other teams in the league in regards to yards allowed per game, but that's the Cowboys' bread and butter. They rank first in passing yards per game. They rank ninth in passing play percentage, so they call a higher percentage of passing plays relative to league average. So I think Prescott goes over the 256.5 passing yards today. Over under 1.5 passing touchdowns. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 11 games this season. He's had 1+ passing touchdown in 9 out of 11 games this season. He's had 2+ passing touchdowns in 1 out of 2 career games against Kansas City. I think that's a little bit more wishy-washy. The Chiefs are really good at defending touchdowns to pretty much every position. Here's a sleeper play that I like for the Dak Prescott is that anytime touchdown, okay? That's where the Chiefs are really the most vulnerable relative to other teams in the league. That's where the Chiefs have allowed the most touchdowns. They've allowed 5 rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks, which, by the way, the Cowboys have allowed the most in the NFL, 6. So these two teams have allowed the most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season. Won't be surprised to see Mahomes and or Prescott rushing for a touchdown. I would have to lean more towards Prescott since he's had that rushing touchdown in 1 out of 2 career games against Kansas City. But let's talk about Mahomes passing yards a little bit. Now, the Cowboys, they've allowed the 3rd most passing yards to quarterbacks this season. Mahomes has gone over the 268.5 passing yards in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's had 250+ passing yards in 9 out of 11 games this season, 200+ in 10 out of 11 games this season. And then he had 260 passing yards in his only career game against the Cowboys. So I think that line is maybe set a little too high. But once again, 250+. He's gone over that in one career game, in his only career game that he's played against the Cowboys. And then he had 250+ in 9 out of 11 games this season. So that's where I would go. I'd have to take that line a little bit down with Mahomes. And then, 2.5 passing touchdowns for Mahomes. I mean, I think that line's a little bit too high as well. For me, if I were to go Mahomes passing touchdowns, I would have to go 1+ passing touchdown or just over the normal line. But I don't like him to necessarily throw for 3 passing touchdowns today. So I would say 1+ passing touchdown for Mahomes. You like Juju for a touchdown? Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Ivan. Juju Smith-Schuster. He has a touchdown in 1 out of 2 career games against the Cowboys. But Hollywood Brown, man, he's had a touchdown in both career games that he's played against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have allowed the most receiving touchdowns to wide receivers this season. I would have to lean more towards Hollywood Brown getting a touchdown here today. Also, Hollywood Brown does have 4 touchdowns this season. I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster has had that many. I'll check real quick to see how many. He only has 1 touchdown this season, Juju, but I don't think that's a terrible look, though. Ivan, or blessed up P, he's had a touchdown in 1 out of 2 career games against the Cowboys. Mahomes for a touchdown feels like he's due. Yeah, man, I think both of these quarterbacks have a real chance to sneak into the end zone today, considering both of them have allowed the most rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks. But I think that's where Dallas has to do it, man. If they want to compete in this game, if they want to win this game, I think they have to. I mean, once again, the Chiefs have done a great job at limiting touchdowns to pretty much every position, wide receivers, tight ends. It just seems like they're a little bit more vulnerable to the quarterback sneaking into the end zone. Maybe the running back. I feel like we got to just pound the ball with Javonte Williams. Speaking of Javonte Williams, let's talk about him a little bit here. Over under 67.5 rushing yards. He's gone over that line in 8 out of 11 games this season. He's had 50-plus rushing yards in 9 out of 11 games, 40-plus in 10 out of 11. He's had 100-plus rushing yards in 2 out of 11 games this season. He's gone over the 67.5. He used to play for Denver, right? So he's seen the Chiefs before. And he's gone over the 67.5 rushing line in 2 out of 6 career games against Kansas City. He's had a touchdown in 2 out of 6 career games against Kansas City, and he has more yards per carry in games where his team wins and ties rather than loses in 4 out of 5 career seasons. So I think, if the Cowboys win, yes, Javonte Williams has a better chance of going over those rushing yards based on that. And I just think that's where the Cowboys have to get a touchdown in this one, is Javonte Williams. So those would be the two guys that I'd really be looking for. Now, Javonte Williams does lead the Cowboys in touchdowns this season with 9, Pickens with 8, Jake Ferguson with 7. But once again, the Chiefs, man, they have limited wide receiver touchdowns very well this season. They've allowed the third fewest, and then tight end touchdowns allowed. Kansas City has allowed the third fewest as well. So, and then running back rushing touchdowns allowed. I mean, they're really good at defending against each position. They've allowed the third fewest to running backs as well. But since that's our touchdown leader, Javonte Williams, I think he's got to produce today. And Dak, I think the Cowboys. I don't think the Cowboys win this game unless Dak Prescott sneaks into the end zone. Dak rushing yards. He's gone over his 11.5 rushing total. Now, the Chiefs have allowed the 6th most rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. Prescott has gone over the 11.5 rushing yard total in only 4 out of 11 games this season. He's had 5+ rushing yards in 6 out of 11 games this season. But he's averaged more rushing yards per attempt on turf than grass in every season that he's played in except one. So that's a beneficial trend for Prescott going over those yards today. Also, he's gone over that line in 1 out of 2 career games against Kansas City. He rushed for 27 yards and a touchdown in one game, and then 0 yards for 0 rushing touchdowns in another game. So, I think Prescott's going to have to go over those rushing yards today in order for the Cowboys to compete. And not just that, but I do like him to go over those rushing yards today. Let's see what else here. We haven't talked about the wide receiving corps here for the Cowboys. The Chiefs, they've done a great job at limiting wide receiver receiving yards. They rank 6th best in the NFL. We got CeeDee Lamb and Pickens are the main 2 guys here for the Cowboys. Lamb has gone over the 80.5 receiving yard line in 4 out of 7 games this season. He's had 70+ receiving yards in 6 out of 7 games this season. If we took CeeDee Lamb for 65+ receiving yards, he's gone over that in every game this season. He has only had 14 total receiving yards in his only career game against Kansas City. So not much history and bad history against Kansas City. Didn't score a touchdown in that game, but he does have more yards per catch at home than on the road in all 6 career seasons that he's played in. So that's a beneficial trend for CeeDee Lamb. Also, he has more yards per catch on turf than grass in 4 out of 6 career seasons. So that's a beneficial trend. I just think that line may be just a little too high today for CeeDee Lamb, although I wouldn't be surprised to see him get there. Statistically, 65+ seems like the better option. But let's look at Pickens over under 75.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that line in 7 out of 11 games this season, and he's gone over that line in 6 straight games. He's had 70+ receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season, 65+ in 9 out of 11 games. He did not get 76+ receiving yards in his only career game against Kansas City. He had 50 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns. He's never played on Thanksgiving. He's had more yards per catch at home than on the road in 3 out of 4 career seasons, and he's had more yards per catch when his team wins or ties rather than loses in 3 out of 4 career seasons. Pickens is the hot hand right now. He's, I mentioned that he's gone over the 75.5 receiving line in 6 straight games. JB, who would you think is, somebody that the Chiefs have to limit and focus on more, CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens?
Dude, crazy. I'm scared to death of George Pickens. With the Chiefs defense, I feel like they can bracket CD Lamb a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I think if they get that 1-on-1, with Pickens GP3, I don't know. I think he could be a thorn on our side today, guys.
And I do just want to take another moment here to thank our sponsors, BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and W Energy Drinks. All right. So, if I were to have to go with one or the other, man, I would lean more towards sheesh. I think I would have to take them both at 65 plus. I just don't know which one is necessarily going to do better. Pickens has the hot hand. I see a little bit more favorable trends with CeeDee Lamb. But Pickens, he's been the hot hand, man. And I'll take your word for it, JB, and lean more towards Pickens going over his true line. 75.5 than CeeDee Lamb going over his. Receptions may be the way to go. CeeDee Lamb has had 5+ receptions in 6 out of 7 games this season. He had 3 receptions in his only career game against Kansas City. So did Pickens. 3 receptions in his only career game against Kansas City. Hey, happy Thanksgiving. Just landed channel. Tell me, what's the topic, team, we are talking about? We're talking about
Let's go.
The Kansas City Chiefs versus Dallas Cowboys game today.
Appreciate it. Give us a sub, man.
Yeah, thank you for stopping in here, phx.douglas. Okay, so let's see if we needed to cover anything else here. Rice, Jake Ferguson, obviously somebody to mention here for the Cowboys. He's their tight end.
Yo, thank you.
He's never played against Kansas City, but he has more yards per catch at home than on the road in 4 out of 4 career seasons, which is a good trend. He has more yards per catch on turf than grass in 3 out of 4 career seasons, which is a good trend. Kansas City, they haven't been great or terrible at limiting receiving yards to tight ends. And Ferguson has gone over the 36.5 receiving line in 6 out of 11 games this season. If you're looking for a safer play with Ferguson, he's had 15+ receiving yards in 10 out of 11 games this season, 20+ in 9 out of 11 games this season. But I can see him going over that. Maybe the receptions is the way to go. Now, the Chiefs have limited tight end receptions better this season than the receiving yards allowed to tight ends relative to other teams in the league. And, Ferguson has had 5+ receptions in 8 out of 11 games this season. I don't think there's any value at taking him at 4+ receptions because he's gone over that in the same amount of games, 8 out of 11. But, 5+ receptions for Ferguson. I could see 3+. He's gone over that in 10 out of 11 games this season. So if you're looking for a safer play with Ferguson, 15+ receiving yards and 3+ receptions. Overall, I do give Kansas City a pretty good sized passing advantage. And the reason being is because the Cowboys' pass defense is much worse than Kansas City. I give the Chiefs a slight rushing advantage in this game. Maybe a little bit bigger than slight. I give Kansas City a slight a slight red zone conversion rate advantage, a good-sized red zone attempts per game advantage, and a slight turnover differential advantage. The only true advantages I really see for the Cowboys here are that statistically is that they have a slight third down conversion advantage and a slight sacks on the quarterback advantage. I do also want to go back to one thing that I didn't mention, Ivan, about, hey, thanks, PHX Douglas. I do want to talk about one other thing about Dak Prescott's statistics, okay? And I think I may have failed to mention this on some of these other players too. I know I did, okay? And that's the Thanksgiving Day statistics, okay? So we were talking about Prescott, 250 plus passing yards. He's gone over that in 5 out of 7 Thanksgiving Day games. He's had 2+ touchdown passes in 5 out of 7 career Thanksgiving Day games. Dak Prescott has had a rushing touchdown in 2 out of 7 career Thanksgiving Day games. He's had, we said, what was his rushing line? 11.5. He has hit that in 3 out of 7 Thanksgiving Day games. If you wanted to take him for 10+, you're looking at 4 out of 7 career Thanksgiving Day games. CeeDee Lamb has only gone over his receiving line in 1 out of 4 career Thanksgiving Day games, and he has a touchdown in 1 out of 4 career Thanksgiving Day games. Jake Ferguson has 35 and 57 yards in receiving yards in 2 Thanksgiving Day games. Did not record a touchdown in either one of those games. I looked at the anytime touchdown potential for a defense, and the Chiefs have had the only defensive touchdown between these two teams. When they've played, I think it was 12 games throughout history. These are the only ones that have scored a defensive touchdown in 1975. They had a fumble recovery in the end zone. I do see that, like, Turpin ranks 4th best in kickoff return yards for the Cowboys this season. But, and if you can find a vulnerability in that Chiefs kickoff defense, then maybe that's where the Cowboys can gain some ground. But, I did want to make note of that. Anyways, JB, well, who do you like in this game? And what's your final score prediction?
What do I like in this game? I know. Kansas City. I think it's gonna come down to the total score. I think it's like a 31-34 Chiefs.
The Cowboys are better against the spread than the Chiefs this season. The Cowboys are also a 2-0 against the spread as a home underdog, whereas the Chiefs are 1-3 against the spread as a road favorite. With the over-under, it's funny because Dallas has the best record to the over this season. They're 7-4. The Chiefs have the worst record to the over. They're 3-8 to the over. And only 3 out of the last 10 meetings between these teams have had a combined total of 53+ points. So I'm going to lean more towards the under side of things today. And I think that the Cowboys specifically will have a tougher time moving the ball than the Chiefs, man. I would love to see the Cowboys win this game, but I think that the Chiefs win by exactly 3 points. Final score, I think it goes under the 52.5. I think the Chiefs, man, they have the potential to just light up this Cowboys defense. Give me the Chiefs to win 30 to – no, that's too high. 27-24. Chiefs win 27-24. And I don't like to say that. I'm hoping I'm wrong, Cowboys fans. I'm a Cowboys fan. I want the Cowboys to win today. But, my unbiased opinion on this, I got to go with the Chiefs. Last game, Cincinnati Bengals at Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore leads the all-time series 32-27 against Cincinnati. I think this game, man, I think this game has the best likelihood of going over the point total today. These teams have gone over the 51.5 point total in their last 3 games they've played against each other. They both are also 7-4, which ranks first in the NFL. 7-4 to the over this season. And I'm just looking at, the fact that Baltimore is 32-27 all time against Cincinnati. Maybe we see a 33-27 victory for Baltimore. They would be 33-27 all time against Cincinnati if they won. And that'd be crazy if the final score were to be that. But I don't know who I'm going with in this game quite yet. I think I like Cincinnati to cover and possibly win. I think out of all the underdogs today, I don't know, man. But they're projected to have Joe Burrow back, JB. How big is that for this Cincinnati team? I mean, how much do you think that benefits or hinders the Bengals' chances of winning this game today? He
Yeah, I don't
hasn't
think they
played in
have
a while.
they don't have a chance to win at all.
Higgins is out, I believe, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's out. Wide receiver T. Higgins. Burrow back. Here's what I like about Burrow. Okay. The most passing yards he's ever had in a game was against Baltimore. He had 525 passing yards. Also, the most receiving yards. I'm trying to see if it was Jamar Chase. Maybe not. Let me see. Jamar Chase, most receiving yards in a game. I would guess it would be the same one. Oh, that was against the Chiefs. Okay. Anyways, that's what I like about Burrow today, is that he has great history in regards to that passing yardage. 525 passing yards in a game against Baltimore. Let's back up a little bit here. These teams have played each other twice on November 27th throughout history, and the series is tied 1-1 on this exact date. Lamar Jackson has a 10-2 career record against the Cincinnati Bengals, and Joe Burrow is 4-6 against the Baltimore Ravens. Cincinnati has an 0-1 all-time record on Thanksgiving Day, and Baltimore is 2-0 on Thanksgiving Day. Joe Burrow nor Lamar Jackson has ever played on Thanksgiving Day. DeAndre Hopkins needs 2 receptions to move into 17th place on the all-time receptions leaders list. He would pass Hines Ward. DeAndre Hopkins needs 1 receiving touchdown to move into 19th place on the all-time receiving touchdowns leaders list. He would pass Lance Allworth. Derrick Henry needs 2 touchdowns to move into 13th place on the all-time touchdowns leaders list. He would pass Larry Fitzgerald. So there are a lot of different milestones that could be reached today between Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins. Cincinnati's on a 4-game losing streak. Baltimore's on a 5-game winning streak. We mentioned that T. Higgins is out. Overall, I give Cincinnati a slight passing advantage. Rushing advantage, I give Baltimore a big rushing advantage. I give Baltimore a good size red zone attempts per game advantage, but I give Cincinnati a big red zone conversion advantage. Cincinnati a slight sacks on the quarterback advantage. No clear third down conversion advantage, and Baltimore a big turnover differential advantage. Man, I don't think Cincinnati looks half bad here in this one, man. But here's what I'm worried about. Here's what I'm concerned about with Cincinnati winning the game, right? Is it's the last game on today, right? And if people don't necessarily, have good luck in the first two games, they may be trying to chase on this game, Jamar Chase in this game, and that's the only thing I don't like about it. Everybody's, you know, drinking their holiday fluids and just blindly pick the Bengals here to get the coin back. And I just, that's what I'm concerned here. But the Bengals love to pass the ball, and Baltimore's pass defense is bad. They rank 24th in passing yards allowed per game. Um, so you know, Joe Burrow. Let's talk about um, the offense for Cincinnati first. Joe Burrow, over under 254.5 passing yards. Baltimore has allowed the 11th most passing yards to quarterbacks this season. Burrow hasn't gone over that line in two. Hey, that's all right, Ivan. Maybe we're wrong here, man. But um, Joe Burrow's gone over the 254.5 passing yard line in 0 out of 2 games this season. He's gone over that line, the 254.5, in 4 out of 10 career games against Baltimore. He's had 200 plus passing yards in 8 out of 10 career games against Baltimore. I mentioned the most passing yards Joe Burrow has ever had in a game was against Baltimore, where he threw for 525 passing yards. He's had 375 plus passing yards in 4 out of 10 career games against Baltimore. I mean, so if I'm taking Burrow over the 254.5 passing yards, which I kind of like, I would take him for 375 plus. He's gone over the three. He's had 375 plus in the same amount of games against Baltimore as he has had 255 plus. He's never played on Thanksgiving. I mentioned that. 1.5 touchdown passes for Burrow. He's gone over that line in half of his career games against Baltimore. The most passing touchdowns Burrow has ever had in a game was against Baltimore. It was 5 total passing touchdowns. He's had 1+ passing touchdown in 9 out of 10 career games against Baltimore, 3+ in 4 out of 10 career games against Baltimore. What do you think about Joe Burrow today, JB? You didn't seem too high on him today.
No, no. Dude's been gone all year. He's gonna pop up and be Houdini or something, do something. I don't know. He couldn't get it done before his injury with the offensive line, the team that he has. I don't believe he will get it done after the injury with the team and everything that he has. So, yeah, I'm not changing it.
You're not moved.
I'm not moved. I'm not moved by it. I'm not moved by Burrow.
I'm very moved by Burrow, man. I think he's got a great spot today to at least get some passing yards. I mean,
I guess the pad the stats, yeah.
Yes, padding stats to lead his team to victory. I don't know necessarily, but padding some stats I kind of like here. Cincinnati's just not a good rushing team. They don't focus on running the ball a lot. Chase Brown, just not somebody that I typically like to target. But, I was talking about him last week. Cincinnati was going up against a pretty tough rush defense. And I was talking about how it seems like the tougher the rush defense is against Cincinnati, the more Chase Brown produces. You may want to fact check me on that, but, just not somebody I'm looking to target in the rushing game, at least. But the passing game, let's talk about Chase Brown's passing attack here. Baltimore has allowed the 7th most receiving yards to running backs. If I'm not mistaken, Chase Brown has a lot of targets for Cincinnati this season. 57 total targets, which ranks 3rd on the best on the team. And with T. Higgins being out, that ranks 2nd best. So I think, Chase Brown could have a ton of targets today with T. Higgins being out. Chase Brown has gone over the 19.5 receiving line in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's gone over that line in 4 straight games. He's had 15-plus receiving yards in 8 out of 11 games this season. He's played 3 career games against Baltimore and had 0 receiving yards, 8 and 52. And he's had a touchdown in 2 out of 3 career games against Baltimore. Baltimore has allowed 2 receiving touchdowns to running backs. They've allowed 9 rushing touchdowns to running backs. So both of those statistics are slightly below average or right around average relative to other teams in the league. So I think, Cincinnati, I think they're going to have an opportunity to score touchdowns with their running back and wide receivers today against Baltimore. It looks like Baltimore's a little bit more vulnerable to that wide receiver anytime touchdown. So that brings me up to Jamar Chase here. Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase, over under 92.5 receiving yards. Baltimore has allowed the 11th most receiving yards to wide receivers this season. Jamar Chase has gone over the 92.5 receiving yard line in half of his games this season. I don't really see any value in taking his line down to even 60 plus. He's had 60 plus receiving yards in the same amount of games as he's had 90 plus receiving yards. Jamar Chase. Maybe taking Jamar Chase from 92.5 to 90 plus could be advantageous. Since he's had 90 plus in 6 out of 10 games this season, and only 5 out of 10 games he's gone over the 92.5. So in that regard, okay. But if I were to take Jamar Chase lower than 80 plus, I would take him down to 50. He's had 50 plus receiving yards in 7 out of 10 games this season. His volume could go up with Higgins being out. He's gone over the 92.5 receiving line in 4 out of 9 career games against Baltimore. He's had 80 plus in 6 out of 9 career games against Baltimore. He's had 100. If you're thinking about Jamar Chase has a vintage game, he's had 125 plus receiving yards in 4 out of 9 career games against Baltimore, 175 plus in 3 out of 9 career games against Baltimore, 200 plus in 2 out of 9 career games against them. He scored a touchdown in 6 out of 9 career games against Baltimore. He's had 2 touchdowns in 2 out of 9 career games. He's had 3 touchdowns in a game against Baltimore. I mean, he's got some pretty decent history here. I like him to score an anytime touchdown today. What are you thinking about Jamar Chase today, JB? You didn't seem like you were necessarily too high on Joe Burrow, but maybe padding the stats you were feeling okay about. What about Jamar Chase?
Yeah. Of course, I'm okay with padding the stats. I mean, I got Jamar Chase on my team. Yeah. I think Jamar Chase could have a good game. Man, like contradicts them, but yeah, I think he could have like a decent game. I don't really like Burrow, man, to have a good game. I mean, just because he comes back, how is the toe gonna feel? How is that gonna be? I just don't buy it. I just don't see it. But I do like the Jamar Chase. Always have and always probably will, no matter who the quarterback is for Jamar.
Yeah, I gotta like Jamar Chase and Chase Brown anytime touchdowns today. If I were to have to lean towards one, I'd have to lean towards Jamar Chase, and then Gesicki, Noah Fant. Something interesting I saw with Mike Gesicki, tight end for Cincinnati, is he's gone under the 36.5 receiving line in every game this season, and he's gone. So he's gone over that line in 0 out of 6 games this season, and he's gone over that line in 1 out of 5 career games against Baltimore. Baltimore hasn't been terrible or great at defending against receiving yards allowed to tight ends, but if you're looking for an under prop, that was something that was sticking out to me there. Check out Gesicki. And then Noah Fant, he's gone over the 11.5 receiving yard line in 8 out of 9 games this season. He has gone over this line in 1 out of 2 career games against Baltimore. He's even scored a touchdown against Baltimore, and he has more yards per catch on the road. Then at home, in 6 out of 7 career seasons, which is a good trend since Cincinnati's on the road here. So, yeah, I think Noah Fant, excuse me, over the receiving yards and Gesicki under the receiving yards looks pretty interesting here. Also, Gesicki under receptions could see, I could see that under the 3.5 receptions. He's only gone over that in 1 out of 6 games this season, whereas Noah Fant's gone over his 1.5 reception line in 8 out of 9 games this season. But here's the thing: is that it was in the last game that Cincinnati played where Noah Fant only had 1 reception, and where Gesicki, I think, had the 4+ receptions or something like that. But anyways, yeah, I got to lean more towards Fant than Gesicki today. Joe Burrow rushing yards. He hasn't gone over that line this season. Let's talk about some Baltimore Ravens props and get on with our day here. Baltimore Ravens. So here's what I also want to say about Jamar Chase real quick is that Baltimore has allowed the 5th most 20+ yard receptions this season, the 5th most. And Jamar Chase has had 7 20+ yard receptions in 10 games this season. So we know he's capable of that big play. And he's had plenty of 20+ yard receptions. And even Yoshivas, wide receiver for the Bengals, has had 5 20+ yard receptions this season. I didn't really talk about him, but and that goes back to Chase Brown, also has 5 20+ yard receptions. So all 3 of these guys are capable of picking up those big gains. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens here. JB, who first and foremost are you looking to see the Ravens utilize today? Who's your go-to guy? Is it going to be Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry and probably Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
They didn't have props up for Hopkins when I was looking, guys, but I did mention that he needed a touchdown, 1 touchdown reception to move into 19th place on the all-time receiving touchdowns leaders list. And when I'm looking at Cincinnati has done a great job at limiting wide receiver touchdowns this season, though. They've allowed the 2nd fewest. So I'm a little skeptical about Hopkins today. And he's only scored a touchdown in 1 out of 5 career games against Cincinnati. If we're looking for anytime touchdown statistics real quick, guys, Derrick Henry has had a touchdown in 5 out of 7 career games against Cincinnati. Rashad Bateman, we'll talk about him. He's had a touchdown in 4 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati.
Mark Jackson, thank you.
Mark Andrews has had a touchdown in 7 out of 14 career games against Cincinnati. He's had 2 touchdowns in 1 of those games. Chase Brown, 2 out of 3. I've already mentioned that. 2 out of 3 career games against Baltimore. He's had a tutty. Jamar Chase, 6 out of 9 career games against Baltimore. I think the last time these guys played, man, I was looking at their box score, and it was just like a dream situation for anybody that likes to play anytime touchdowns in the same game. Let me double check if this was the game. It doesn't seem like it was necessarily. Maybe it was this game. Chase Brown had a touchdown in their last game. Jamar Chase, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. I mean, so yeah, I'm kind of feeling the same way here again today. Maybe the day starts off slow. Maybe we get a relatively lower scoring game in this Lions game. Cowboys, Chiefs, I think probably has the best chance of going under the total points. But I think this one maybe has the best chance of going over statistically, and I'm naturally feeling that way. But let's talk about Lamar Jackson real quick. He's only, Cincinnati has allowed the fourth most passing yards to quarterbacks this season, but Lamar Jackson has only gone over the 234 and a half passing yard line in 1 out of 8 games this season. 200 plus passing yards in 4 out of 8 games this season. But he has gone over the 234 and a half passing yard line in half of his career games against Cincinnati. It was more like 6 out of 11 career games against Cincinnati. He didn't have a passing attempt in one of those games. But he's had 200 plus passing yards in 7 out of 11 career games against Cincinnati. So if I were to go Lamar Jackson passing yards, I would absolutely have to take those passing yards down to 200 plus. And one of the reasons, not only being because he has bad history, but Baltimore calls the second highest percentage of rushing plays relative to other teams in the league. So they're really focused in on that rushing attack. Lamar Jackson rushing, let's talk about it. He's gone in Cincinnati. A lot of people think the Bengals win today, says Blessed Up P. I mean, yeah, dude. I'm worried about it being the last game of the day. If it was the first game or the second, I would like Cincinnati's chances a lot better. But I mean, let's talk about Lamar Jackson. Cincinnati has allowed the 9th fewest rushing yards to quarterbacks this season. Lamar Jackson, over under 25 and a half rushing yards. He's gone over this line in half of his games this season. If you're thinking about taking him down to 15 plus, well, he's gone over that in half of his games this season as well. 10 plus rushing yards, he's gone over in every game, 8 out of 8 games this season. But he's gone over the 25 and a half rushing yard total in 10 out of 12 career games against Cincinnati. So I like that history there. He's actually had 50 plus rushing yards and 50 plus, excuse me, let's back up. He's had 30 plus rushing yards in 10 out of 12 career games against Cincinnati. He's had 50 plus rushing yards in 9 out of 12 career games against Cincinnati. For those who like to do those alternate reverse lines there. But he's only had a rushing touchdown in 2 out of 12 career games against Cincinnati. Also, Cincinnati, I don't believe they have allowed many rushing touchdowns to quarterbacks this season. They've allowed 1. So I'm concerned about LJ rushing attack today. But I do like that history. I could see him going over that. But once again, Cincinnati ranks 9th best in rushing yards allowed to quarterbacks. Goes back to Derrick Henry, what you were talking about, JB. Derrick Henry, over under 91 and a half rushing yards. Cincinnati has allowed the second most rushing yards per game to opposing teams. Derrick Henry, 91 and a half rushing yards. Cincinnati's also allowed the second most rushing yards to running backs this season. Henry's gone over the 91 and a half rushing yard line in 4 out of 11 games this season. 70 plus at 6 out of 11 games, 60 plus at 7 out of 11, 50 plus at 8 out of 11. He's had 92 plus rushing yards in 3 out of 7 career games against Cincinnati. 60 plus rushing yards in 5 out of 7 career games against Cincinnati. 50 plus in 6 out of 7 career games against them. So I think, man, Derrick Henry is in another spot here today. I mentioned last week he would eat. He got the touchdowns, but didn't really accumulate the rushing yards. Today, I think he has a much better chance of accumulating those rushing yards. We may have to take his line down a little bit to make it a little bit of a safer play. But, Cincinnati has allowed the third most 20-plus rushing yard plays this season. And Derrick Henry has 6 20-plus yard rushing gains this season. Lamar Jackson hasn't had any. So I think the big explosive play capability is much more in Derrick Henry's favor as well. Yeah, I mean, I would have to lean towards Henry going over that line, even though he's only gone over that line in 4 out of 11 games this season. Cincinnati's rush defense is just bad, And let's talk about, if you're thinking about Derrick Henry receiving yards, Cincinnati has allowed the second most receiving yards to running backs this season, and Henry has had 7+ receiving yards in 7 out of 11 games this season. But he's only gone over that line in 2 out of 7 career games against Cincinnati. Who you leaning more towards in this one, JB? Zay Flowers or Rashad Bateman to have a better game?
Well, Zay Flowers doesn't really like to show up in primetime games, so probably gonna have to go with Bateman, because this is a Thursday night football game. This is not Thanksgiving game. This is regular Thursday night football proceedings. The extra games are the early games. So I'm going with the primetime event that Zay Flowers does not show up and Bateman does.
That's where I'm leaning towards as well. Now,
Because some people are actually getting this kind of twisted, and they actually think that all day today is Thanksgiving football and tomorrow is the Thursday night football mode today, which is totally
oh yeah, there's that game on tomorrow. Man, this has been a quick turnaround for me. I mean, I usually have one Thursday game on, right?
yeah.
Well, now we have 3 today. We have 1 tomorrow. So
Yep.
yeah, it's been
This is that prime
crazy,
football
man.
season, man. This is that prime time.
Yeah. But Bateman has had a touchdown in 4 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati. I like that. And but Cincinnati has done a good job at defending against wide receiver touchdowns. So I'm not necessarily looking for a wide receiver here today to score a touchdown for Cincinnati. I'd be leaning more towards, Derrick Henry. Cincinnati's about average in rushing yards allowed to them, to the running backs, but they've allowed the most receiving touchdowns to tight ends, JB. Now, we'll talk about Zay Flowers and Bateman for a second, but I definitely want to consider these tight ends for Baltimore to score a touchdown. Okay. So Zay Flowers over under 64.5 receiving yards. He's gone over that in 6 out of 11 games this season. He's had 55 plus in 9 out of 11 games. He's only gone over the 64.5 receiving yard total in 1 out of 4 career games against Cincinnati. And he does not have a touchdown against Cincinnati throughout his career. Primetime game. Not somebody I'm looking forward to. Now, the reception line is somewhat interesting here for Zay Flowers. He's gone over the 4.5 reception line in 8 out of 11 games this season. He's had 3+ receptions in 10 out of 11 games this year, and has had 3+ receptions in all career games against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's done a good job at limiting receptions to wide receivers, though, this season. But if I were to have to go with a Zay Flowers prop, I would lean more towards his receptions over the 4.5, but I'd feel more comfortable at 3+. Rashad Bateman, he's only gone over the 24.5 receiving yard line in 2 out of 9 games this season. If we took that to 10+, he's gone over that in 7 out of 9 games this season. But he has gone over the 24.5 receiving yard line in 4 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati. He's had 10+ receiving yards in all career games against Cincinnati. And he's had a touchdown in 4 out of 6 career games against them. Receptions isn't looking good for Bateman. He's only gone over the 2.5 reception line in 1 out of 9 games this season. But he has gone over the 2.5 reception line in 5 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati. So, but yeah, not necessarily a spot that I'm looking for either of those guys. But we got Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely here. Cincinnati is terrible at defending against the tight end position. Cincinnati is their last. They rank worst in receiving yards allowed to tight ends. They rank worst in receptions allowed to tight ends. They rank worst in receiving touchdowns allowed to tight ends. Who do you feel like is going to be that difference maker today, JB, between the tight end battle, Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely?
It's likely going to be Andrews today.
Likely going to be Andrews.
Yes. I don't see it. Man, I don't know. Um, Andrews, I think, has been more of a problem and more existent as of lately. Maybe even just like this whole year. Um, yeah, I'm going Andrews. Give me Andrews.
I think in this
More of a
last
match game.
game, these guys played, man, it was Mark Andrews who scored.
Yeah.
And then it seems like Lamar Jackson kind of goes back and forth. The 2 games ago that these teams played, likely had 2 touchdown passes from Mark. Likely had 2 touchdown receptions. So it's just kind of back and forth here. Let's talk about the history here. Mark Andrews, over under 38.5 receiving yards. He's only gone over that in 1 out of 11 games this season. 35 plus receiving yards, still 1 out of 11 games. 30 plus, now we're getting to 4 out of 11. 25 plus, 4 out of 11. 20 plus, 7 out of 11. But he's gone over the 38.5 receiving yard line in 10 out of 14 career games against Cincinnati. He's had 25 plus in 11 out of 14 career games, 20 plus in 12 out of 14 career games. He's had more yards per catch at home than on the road in 6 out of 8 career seasons, which is a good trend since he's playing at home today. He has more yards per catch in games that his team wins or ties rather than loses in 7 out of 8 career seasons. So if you like Baltimore today, Mark Andrews, just based on that trend alone, has a better chance of going over these receiving yards. I already mentioned his touchdown history against Cincinnati. I think he's in a good spot here to possibly go over those receiving yards. But 1 out of 11 games this season is really scary, you know. And then likely he's gone over in 1 out of 7, his 23.5 receiving line in 1 out of 7 games this season. Um, he's only gone over the 23.5 receiving line in 1 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati. Man, just I'm gonna have to lean towards Andrews going over his receiving yards more than likely. I like the history here with Andrews a little bit more. I like the fact that he's gone over his receiving line in 10 out of 14 career games against Cincinnati, whereas Isaiah Likely has only gone over that line in 1 out of 6 career games against Cincinnati. Um, and if I were to have to go with the reception line for these guys, um, Andrews, 2 plus receptions. He's gone over that in 13 out of 14 career games against Cincinnati and 8 out of 11 games this season. So, yeah, I got to lean more towards Andrews for all of the, anytime touchdown, receiving yards. It's hard not to like Mark Andrews anytime touchdown, considering Cincinnati's allowed the most receiving touchdowns to tight ends this season. JB, what are you thinking about the final score here? Baltimore is favored to win this game by 7 points. Do you think Baltimore wins by 7 or more points, or no?
No, I don't. I think Baltimore wins it, but I don't think it's more than 7 points. I think it's only like a one. I think it's only like 3 points. I think it's like a 3 point game. Give me like 14-17 Baltimore.
So you're going for the lower scoring game,
Yeah.
14-17?
Mhm.
Give me a higher scoring game here. Give me Baltimore to win this game by exactly 6 points. So Cincinnati covers. Give me Baltimore 34, Cincinnati 28.
Oh,
Be my final score prediction in this one.
okay.
Uh, any other words here, JB? We got a game tomorrow, Chicago at Philadelphia. I will do my absolute best to get on here and break that game down with you guys. So
I'm gonna
uh,
give you my early pick. I'm going straight down Windy City, Chicago.
I couldn't even tell you right now, guys, on the Chicago and Philly game tomorrow. But do my best to get in a game breakdown for that one. It was tough for me to prepare for today's, but we got through it, guys. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. best of luck today for everybody, and I hope you guys enjoy
Yes.
the day with your families. Happy Thanksgiving. And just
Even
want to give
Not Move podcast.
another thank you to the sponsors: BetUS, MyBookie.ag, Walmart.com, Open Goal, the MLB and NFL Pro Shops, and
Let's go.
W Energy Drinks.
Let's go. Yes,
Let's
guys.
go
Also,
Cowboys. Like I said, man,
let's go Chiefs.
I think the Cowboys will break my heart today. And luckily, I should have some food to wash that down with. But hey, man, let's go Cowboys. This would be a great win. JB, good luck today in with your
Yep.
Chiefs.
Good luck today with your cow babies.
I
Make sure you
think I'm
guys
gonna.
bring a
I think I'm
bib.
gonna need it.
Yeah, make sure you guys bring a bib to pick up the drool. And spit up. See.
Anything else you wanted to add, JB?
Yeah. You guys go to notmove-shop.fourthwall.com. Use promo code NOTMOVE to receive 10% off store wide. You guys can also get into our NFL jersey raffle off. Okay. We got a section on there. Just redid the background picture to our website so you can kind of see it a little bit better, easier to navigate. But you just go on down to the donation center. You guys, it's $10 a ticket. Buy a little spot, get a chance to opportunity to possibly win you a, whatever jersey of your choice, team, player. We don't care. Just come on in, play, have some fun. We will be streaming the games today and tomorrow. I don't know how present I or anybody else will be during the streams, but they will be going. So, if you guys, for some reason, can't watch Thanksgiving football, I don't know why you couldn't, but if you can, now you can. As well as you guys go to w.gg, use promo code not moved, receive 10% off store wide. Now, if you guys are going to our merchandise store, like I said, not moved shop.fourthwall.com, you guys can go over and it gives you an option at checkout to become a Twitch subscriber. You become a Twitch subscriber, you automatically receive an extra 5% off for your purchase. That's a total of 15% off by you doing that and using promo code not moved. Y'all, I just ordered me a hoodie. It's getting cold out. I got to rep it. I have my hoodie here in about a week. Let's go, guys. Kansas City Chiefs. Man, let's
Yeah.
go.
Once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and the support, the subscribes, the just hanging out with us. We really appreciate it, and we hope this is making life easier for you guys and making it a little bit more enjoyable. And yeah, man, I hope this information is really helping you guys out. And especially those alternate lines. That's something new that I've been doing. I know a lot of people do like parlays, even though I don't. But I think those alternate lines, man, they look like they've been doing pretty good lately. So if you like to stack alternate lines, uh, looks like that's been going well lately. But yeah, once again, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thanks again. Good luck today. All right, JB. Later, man.
Oh my God.
Take care, guys.
This non-casual podcast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or reused without the authorized written consent of the Not Move Podcast Network. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.